Too many people start with a maximalist approach after hemming and hawing over all of the minutia, cobbling together some Frankenstein's monster of training principles, and they end up falling off anyways because they weren't honest with their ability to commit to some 2 times per day, 6 days per week, Arnold in season mania fest. The fact is, missed workouts and bad days happen for everybody. Now, for me, I would just make up the workout on the next day and push everything back. But a lot of you weirdos have to bench on Monday and can only bench on Monday. And you'll end up missing trap, forearm, and calf day and say, well, guess that's a loss. Monday's bench day. And that's why you're doomed every summer for the rest of your life to wear pants and a turtleneck. Understand, guys, that strength and size is forgiving, but you want to start out with what you can reasonably commit to and then let your need for work or your tolerance to work dictate what you do next. So that's what we're going to start with. There are a lot of ways to compare splits, and going by the number of days per week, in my mind, is the only one that makes sense and isn't going to send you spiraling down a doom wormhole of indecision. So if you have 3 good solid days to get your work in, that gives you 4 days off. You get to maintain your obligations, your community engagement, your social life. And if you don't have any of those, I'll see you in the 6-day program video. So with 3 days to work with, the next logical question is how often? You can train each lift or muscle once, twice, or 3 times per week. A 1 time per week split's going to look like a bro split, push-pull legs or torso arms legs. And on the other end of the spectrum, you have high frequency, 3 times per week, which on a 3-day split means full body. If you have another way of putting that together, I'd love to see your math. Now, you should resist the urge to go to the file you have saved of all of the dozens of research papers and meta-analysis that you've hoarded over the last years. The frequency that you are best suited using has absolutely nothing to do with what any of those garbage studies say. It is entirely based on 2 things and 2 things only. How much frequency do you need in order to grow, and how much frequency can you tolerate without falling apart? Bodybuilders that train for years, getting as big as a house off 1 times per week of a bro split, will eventually look at their arms or their rear delts or their calves in the mirror and think, gee, these aren't quite as bulbous and voluminous as my other body parts. I'd like to fix that ASAP. They're inevitably going to increase those muscles to more volume or more days per week. That is a need issue. They need to do more in order to get those to catch up. But when the same bodybuilder realizes that 2 days per week of triceps on top of all of the benching and shoulder work that they're doing just leads to crippling elbow tendinitis, they're going to realize the juice isn't worth the squeeze and they're going to take the frequency back down. That's a tolerance issue. So let's pick each one of these bad boys apart and see where you land. So for a 3-day per week bro split, hitting each thing 1 time per week, the first option is the ever talked about push-pull legs. And I got to give this disclaimer before I go into pros and cons because I know how all of you think and you think wrong. A pro does not represent the most important thing and the only thing that you should fixate on, and a con does not disqualify this program from having any value. These are all trade-offs. Nothing's going to work off absolutes and you can't do everything at once. So start by prioritizing what you need and forget about the rest. Don't get a complex over the cons. So the first pro for something like a push-pull legs is the benefit of each lift or muscle getting a full week of recovery. Recovery is just sky high here. So you go in feeling fresh as a daisy, you're eager to get after the work, and you can just make it a bloodbath. Your only job is to make sure that you do enough on that one day to merit the rest time. Now, if you're a high intensity geek, you have to absolutely crush your forced rep drop set 9-second eccentric post-failure nonsense, or else it's a wasted workout. You get a nice long 7 days to wait to try it again. And most normal people are just going to use a lot of effort with volume to justify that recovery break. Now, the trade-offs with this is that as you develop, you might find that different muscles and lifts have different needs. Generally, really big ass muscles and lifts like hitting your legs with squats or deadlifts, those do well with lower frequency. A lot of people can hit it 1 time per week and be just fine, provided there's enough effort and some weekly progression. But for smaller muscles, for upper body movements like benching, a lot of you might find the growth is kind of slow, and upping the frequency is one of the easiest ways to get it going. You're also going to find that those smaller muscle groups being put after heavy pressing or rowing movements, they become kind of an afterthought. You're going to be fatigued. You're not going to be able to give 100%. And the consensus of the guys with the biggest arms is that if you want those muscles to grow, they have to be a priority. You can't just throw them at the end of your workout. So I think push-pull legs is great if strength is really high up on your list of goals because it does center around movement patterns. You're always going to do the pressing, the rowing, and the squatting or deadlifting first in your workout, and everything else is a supplement to that. But if you're an aesthetic bro and you're much more advanced, or if you put a higher premium on getting bigger arms and shoulders like right now, you might find that doing those later in the workout hinders potential. Now, if that is the case, it really is no big. You just switch to something like an arms, torso, and leg split. You're taking the same exercises and just rearranging them. So instead of them all being in service of the same movement pattern, you're now using antagonist movement patterns. Now, this does a couple of cool things. Delts, biceps, triceps are now going to be hit when they're much more fresh. They're also going to get an increase in frequency because you hit your triceps a bit when you bench, you hit your biceps a bit when you row. So the fact that those are done on 2 different days means that you're actually getting a little bump in your training frequency. It also opens up the ability to do cool stuff like supersets. You can superset chest and back or bicep and tricep work and not really be any worse for wear. It's a good way to just get in and out of the gym faster and have your gains be about the same. Even if you're a strength athlete, I can make the case that being able to focus on your biceps and triceps is going to actually have a positive effect on your ability to press and row, which is in turn going to make pressing and rowing muscles bigger, and on the cycle goes. So I got to give the edge to this split for most people, but training is cyclical. Remember that. I think most of you low frequency bros would be best cycling back and forth, give a period of time to push-pull legs, get your compound lifts cherried out, and then give some time to focus on your smaller muscles, bring those weak points up. Back and forth you go, and you'll never get stagnant. Now, jumping to the other extreme of frequency is a full body 3-day split. This is the heart and soul of silver era training, with many of the goats in that era getting damn strong and jacked without the benefits of steroids. Now, a lot of the silver era programs blurred the lines of size and strength. It was a lot of barbell and compound type movement stuff done to typical bodybuilding thresholds, repeating sets, medium to very high repetitions, and just a crap ton of volume. And it really does feel like they looked into the future, into the modern era of bro splits, and saw all of the online opinions about how that's junk volume and it's overtraining. And then they were just like, hold my beer, because these whole body workouts were absolutely nutty. The simple ones that use just a run of basic compound movements with barbells and dumbbells will go a dozen exercises in a workout, each one done for repeating sets. And then after pushing that to failure, you take a day off, come back, and do it again. And some of these guys wouldn't do 3 days. They do up to 5 days. So most of you guys are looking at this like there's no way you can recover from that. You can absolutely recover from that, just not on your first day. Getting used to this type of volume is a process. It takes time. Just like that 52 set study that everybody lost their mind over, it is not surprising to me that those high set workouts gave the best returns in that study because they actually ramped them up. If you took a bunch of people and threw them into it cold, you'd see the opposite. You see a lot of people overtraining, getting into the weeds, but your body has an incredible ability to adapt. So if this is your life, you love training, of course it's doable. The question is, do you really want to? Now the pros here is that high frequency lets you in a sense be more fresh for the weekly volume for each body part, but I don't know how that really tracks when you're doing so many exercises in a workout. The last half of the workout, you're gonna be dragging ass in some sense. There's no way around it. That doesn't mean it's not productive. It just means that you're not fresh as a daisy. Now you can get around this by rotating what lifts you start with, but it's going to be a marathon either way. In addition to all of that, it fits really nicely with athletic programs because you don't want your star quarterback dragging ass 3 days out of the week when his legs are recovering from that 130 set bloodbath that he did on his bro split. Guys, if you want to hit the holy trifecta of gains, the size, the strength, and of course the clout, you need a program that checks the biggest boxes. Not only does it use the best time-tested movements that you are actually likely to stick to and improve on, but it includes a logical progression that is based on my most popular programs. These are programs that have gotten rave reviews from people that literally just ran the template. BaseStrengthLP uses 3 of the most proven templates pulled from the principles of some of the biggest, strongest men in history that have been used for over a century. The workouts are fun, intuitive, there's a logical progression, but it does take it up a notch because it personalizes the workouts to you. As you get bigger, stronger, more advanced, it becomes harder to tick those numbers forward, and you can't get by not adjusting your workouts to your own particular tolerances. Now, most people get an online coach to take care of that for them to the tune of $200 to $300 a month, and the rest of the people just never figure it out to begin with. So if you're wondering why you start every training cycle super excited only to get several weeks in, feel brittle, overtrained, tired, disillusioned, like you're just a dodgeball and the program is the side of a building, then you need direction that updates your training minute to minute, day to day, week to week based on your immediate feedback. BaseStrengthLP takes the guesswork out of training, and it does what only an online coach can do, which which is personalize the program to you at 1/10 of the cost. Yes, 1/10 of the cost. So jump on the heart and soul of old school training. It's my programming, but it is your program and you cannot get that anywhere else. Hit up BaseStrength.com today to get started on your game. Now let's say doing each lift 1 time per week, that's just way too soft. I need more than that. I'm a machine. But then you jump to 3 times per week and you're like, bro, that's a bit too metal for me. Let's take it easy. The truth is 2 times per week training is just a really good safe frequency for most people. That's why I default to that with most of my programs. And it's super easy to adjust forward or back, lean more into compounds, or remove variations and put more isolation or supplementary work in. It really doesn't take much to take a preferred 2 times per week frequency and wedge it into 3 training days out of the week. The most straightforward way to do that is to do a full body, upper body, and lower body approach. So pressing, rowing, shoulders, arms on one day, glutes, hamstrings, quads on another day, and then a marathon day where you run all of it together. Now, right off the bat, this opens up a nice deadlift squat dynamic, so you're not stuck trying to prioritize squats or deadlifts in the workout. Now, for hypertrophy guys, it doesn't matter that much, but for strength guys, trying to get adequate work for each one is a little tricky if you only can train them on the same day. So you can have deads lead one day, squats lead the other day, and still do enough general lower body work that they are both thoroughly quads, glutes, and hamstrings. Obviously, you can do the same thing for your chest, shoulders, and arms. However, and this isn't really a con, this is a personal preference, but if I'm committing to 2 times per week frequency for any lift or muscle, I really would just as soon do a 4-day per week split, 2 days upper, 2 days lower. Now, given that this is a video about 3 days, it brings up an interesting question. Is it better to limit volume and effort so that I can cram all of the work inside of a nice, neat, round 7-day week? Or should I bleed outside of the week? Give myself a couple more days so that I can do more work with higher effort. That brings us to asynchronous training. If you thought we weren't going to overcomplicate this, you were wrong. This basically says 7-day weeks are a stupid social construct. I only obey my biology, and if my biology says that I need to train 3 times every 2 weeks, damn it, that's what I'm going to do. It's also a cute way that I can force mention of my 4-day per week programs in a video about training 3 days per week. Now, I can feel a lot of you vibrating as you're generating hives over your face at the very thought of an asynchronous offset training schedule, but I promise you it'll be fine. And for many of you, it actually does solve a lot of problems. Now, the first method that you can do is just an A-B upper lower split. You have 2 distinct workouts and you just repeat them over and over. So week 1, ABA, week 2, BAB. This is super simple. It's easy enough to write on a cocktail napkin. It's what simple beginner strength programs like starting strength look like, because you don't need that much complexity and it's not asking too much of the lifter. And if you apply this to hypertrophy guys who are emphasizing size over strength, you don't have the same recovery demand, so you can do something simple like this even if you are a bit more advanced. However, my preferred way to do this is the 4 in 3. You're taking a basic 4-day per week program. It's probably going to be upper, lower, and you're just going to run it 3 days and it's going to bleed into the next week. Now, this will give you 9 to 10 days in between each similar workout. But if you use a blended approach, you are going to get higher workout frequency and you are going to be very fresh for each workout. There are a lot of really popular programs that feature something like a squat, bench, deadlift, or overhead day. 531 does it, Juggernaut does it. A lot of the programs I cobble together do it. And there's other programs that make use of a 9 or 10 day split instead of a regular 7-day to guarantee recovery before the next heavy squat or deadlift session. Again, this is really important for strength guys. It's not that important for hypertrophy guys. So if strength is part of the equation at all, I think this gives a really magical balance of stress and recovery for those people that do benefit from that extra bit of recovery. It's enough focus on the big movements with enough room for accessories. And in my opinion, it's just really hard to F up and it's super adaptable. If I can, I like more time to do more sets when I'm more fresh and my aging body appreciates the few extra days of rest that I get here. Even when I'm running a 4-day split, I've been known to make an audible and push it into the next week anyways, and that's always paid off. So it's a good move if recovery is of any concern to you. If you're a bit older, you feel like you're prone to overuse issues, or even if you're a bit more advanced and that extra strength means that each extra workout takes a toll. So that's all I got for today on 3-day per week training. Like I said, guys, don't get a complex over which one you run. Start with what fits your schedule, program that in, and then start to refine the program. Getting good at these programs takes experience, and the longer you run it, the more insight you'll have into your own training needs. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Let me know if you have experience with this style of training, what your epiphanies were, what it did for you, what you learned. Leave it in the comments. Until next time, this is Bromley. I'll see you.